You are listening to Beyond the Wheel, a podcast about the people and ideas that drive the RV community forward.
Welcome back to the Beyond the Wheel podcast, where we talk about RV life as it really is, not just how it looks on social media. And today's episode is for anyone thinking about RVing, getting started in RVing, or maybe you've already been RVing for a couple years and are wondering why it still feels harder than they expected it to. Well, we're talking about the mindset, the planning, flexibility, and budgeting that actually makes this lifestyle work. Because an RVer isn't just about the rig you drive, it's about how you handle everything after you buy it. We got Sean with me too. And the first segment that we're going to talk about is flexibility. Everything that we talk about is important, but flexibility is going to be almost crucial. If you're not able to be flexible, RVing may not be for you. I don't know how you feel about that, Sean, what I just said.
Yeah, I think this is like the biggest thing in RVing is being flexible because stuff is going to happen all the time and you need to be just go with the flow or you're never going to make it more than a few months RVing. Like weather is a big one. Breaking down on the side of the road is a big one. Just a flat tire can throw you off several hours from off of your schedule, maybe even a whole day, depending on if you have a spare or not. Road construction, detours, all that stuff. It's all flexibility.
Yeah, and not to sound too negative about this, we don't want you guys to think that we're being negative, but I want to say, with that being said, I do feel like a lot of times there are more things going against you than with you, or there's a potential of more things that can go wrong than run right, especially Sean, like the longer your trip is, the longer you're planning on being out for, that's just giving you multiple, more chances of something going wrong, like a breakdown. And that's a great point. I don't know, Sean, the answer to this. Do you carry a spare with you for your truck and your fifth wheel? Both.
Yes. Yeah, I have a spare for both.
See, I only have a spare for my tow vehicle, but the Jeep's got a spare on it. But I don't have a spare for our Vista, and that's basically because the tire is enormous. It's just takes up a lot of space. Now, when we travel down into Mexico, we do carry a spare, and I've known other people that have Class A motorhomes, and they carry a spare too. But to be honest, the spare is really just for somebody else to put on still because the tire is so heavy, and you wouldn't be able to, we wouldn't be able to jack up our RV unless we used it as like our leveling jacks, but they're not really made for that type of, lifting up the rear of the coach to change tires type of thing.
Yeah, ours, the trouble is with the dually truck, the inside dually tire is a bear to change like either of the dualies in the back because the rims kind of stick together almost. So it's hard to break them apart. You need to have somebody with like some air tools usually to break them apart to be able to change those tires. So we're kind of in the same boat if we get a flat tire on one of our dually tires. In fact, when we were going down to Perry, Georgia to the FMCA that one year and we got a flat, we had to wait for somebody to come help us because we couldn't get those two dually tires apart.
But the fact that you have a spare does save. Like I'm not trying to talk anybody out of it. I think having a spare is important because it will save you the time for somebody to go out, find you a new spare that matches your wheel. So having a spare can really save you, even if you can't do the physical change right there where you are. At least you have it and you don't have to order one. So it saves time. And that's why we, when we do travel to Mexico, we do bring a spare because we're like, who knows if they'll have this weird 19.5 inch RV tire down in Mexico. So we do bring one. We make room for it when we're doing a trip like that. But you know what? Being flexible too means, depending on, and we're going to talk a little bit about planning later, plans don't always go as planned. And I don't know, Sean, there's probably countless times that I've been on the phone with you after I'm driving for a day and I'll say, well, I'm going to stop at this such and such rest area. And you get there and the rest area is closed. And now I'm not sleeping at that rest area and I got to find somewhere else. And now instead of stopping before sundown, now I'm driving at night. So I think being flexible is huge. And Sean, you're retired military. I remember interviewing some military people, and they felt that their careers in military really prepped them for RV life because you're kind of taught to adapt and overcome. And I know RV is supposed to be fun and you're on vacation. And I always thought that was so funny that that's the terms that they use. They're like, yeah, military taught us to adapt and overcome so that we were ready for vacationing in our RV.
Yeah, it's funny because I always think about that what Mike Tyson said, like everybody has a plan until they get
I
punched
love
in
that.
the
Yeah.
face. And so I always think of RVing like that, like it's never going to go as planned. Oh, as soon as you get on the road, the first thing that happens, your plans are going to change. And if you're not somebody that can deal with that, it becomes
Yeah,
miserable.
real fast. And we're not just talking for full timers either. I mean, just this could just be your vacation. You're traveling a couple 100 miles to visit family, and yeah, it's it's funny with so much that can happen with RVing that we still do it and we still have a great time because honestly, I feel like sure in the moment when things are going wrong, it kind of sucks, but when those issues happen, they make the best stories. Like they're the fun stories. They're the
Yeah.
stories that you kind of remember. Like, just a couple months ago in October when we broke our rear axle. I remember that like it was yesterday, but I don't remember, the week before that how smooth of a drive that was and I didn't run into anything. Like that's
Yeah.
a forgettable the smooth easy drive is the forgettable moment.
Yeah, exactly.
But now I can say, now I got this story that I broke a rear axle going down I-81 that I'll probably remember now forever. Being on the side of the road waiting for a truck to come out to tow our Class A. It wasn't fun at the time, and we did need to be somewhere, but being flexible helps you, especially having our dog with us. Now you got to look for a hotel that's pet friendly. Now we got all of our food in our refrigerator. You gotta, there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to RVing, and the more flexible you can be, the easier RVing will be, the more fun RVing becomes. I think it's good that we started this one with that as number one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think that it also helps you the flexibility helps you with patience too, because it's easy to get mad when things go wrong. If you're just patient, it
Yeah.
works
And
out.
it's not always easy, right? I mean, depending on what's going wrong and maybe you had a couple things go wrong all in the same week, it is going to be tough. But yeah, patience and segment two or topic two is keeping your cool. If you can stay cool, calm, and collective, things will go easier because the more frustrated you get, the more chances you're going to have to take in a bad situation and making it worse. And I think of the time that I went down the road and that I couldn't back up out of, or that I shouldn't have attempted to back up because our tow vehicle, when we flat tow, you really shouldn't be backing up. And I was like, you know what? I don't feel like taking the 10 minutes. It's just 10 minutes too. But it was getting dark and I was like, I don't feel like taking the 10 minutes to disconnect, turn around and hook back up again. It's literally 10 minutes. These are lessons learned here. And so I tried to back up and the car kind of shuffled down like off the road just a little bit, shuffled down, and then it bent our tow bar. That was actually going to the RVE Summit in, I think, Texas or Alabama. I can't remember which one. And broke our tow bar. Not bad enough that we couldn't use it. So I used it just to drive. I mean, we were only 20 minutes away. Drove it there, had another one ordered, and picked it up in town, and then swapped it out so that we could drive the RV afterwards. But keeping your cool, don't make haste decisions, try to, I don't know, just sit back and look at the situation before you make it worse. But keeping your cool could be just as important as flexibility, but I think they kind of go, like Sean was saying, I think they kind of go hand in hand. And I think being prepared to know that things could go wrong too, just being aware of that. Don't expect everything to go perfect.
Yeah, the biggest thing I think of when I think of keeping your cool is driving, because people are very inconsiderate of people towing big heavy things or driving big heavy things, and they'll cut you off and they won't let you in to merge. All that. It's easy to get super pissed when you're
Yeah.
driving. So you have to learn really quickly to just keep your cool, just drive and let the idiots do what they're going to do. You just be super defensive and not offensive because you get yourself in a lot of trouble trying to road rage with an RV.
And that's something, to be honest with everybody here, that's something I still kind of struggle with. I still carry my Northeast Philly or my Northeast area attitude when I drive. I'm super nice all the other, 99% of the time, I'm super nice. But when I'm driving and people cut me off and stuff I get upset about it. And my Philly comes out, I guess, a little bit, you could say. And that's been something I've been working on to stay calm while driving for as long as I've been driving. I know it's a problem of mine and I'm aware of it. And it's something that I actively try to work on every time I'm behind the wheel. And I think I am making improvements over the years. And I've noticed in the RV, it's multiplied by like 10 as far as because nobody wants to be behind an RV, even if you're doing the speed limit. They get in front of you, then they slow down. And I get frustrated. I'm like, well, why did you work so hard to get around me? And now you're going slower than what we were originally doing. And that gets me upset. And it's best to, honestly, just let it go. I know it's easier said than done, but just let it go, relax. I've noticed recently that helps me. This is probably not doesn't help everybody, but if the speed limit's like 65, I just do 62. That lets everybody easily get around me if they want to get around me. Just those couple miles an hour slower are not going to impact my overall time, my estimated time of arrival. And it just seems to make everything a little easier if people can just zip by me a little, by going 3 under, mostly everybody's doing 10 over. So they can easily get around me and just keep on going. Nobody wants to go slower than the speed limit. So not usually. Sometimes it still happens, but not as often.
The one other time that I see people losing their cool quite a bit, and you probably know this one, Kenny, especially if they have a towable, it's backing in their RV. People, marriages ended because of that, I bet. So I think that's another time when, especially when you're new, you got to be patient and you got to keep calm because the more mad you get, the harder it's going to be to back that thing into where it needs to go for both you and the spotter.
Yeah, like Sean said, people probably gotten divorced over this. Yeah, you getting angry at the situation and then kind of getting angry at your partner, then they're going to get back angry now and then get angry at you. It kind of spreads really quickly. And then everybody's angry.
Yeah, I think of places like Disney, Fort Wilderness. That place is a bear to park, but you got to be patient. You can't worry about the cars that are piling up behind you. You just got to do it and be calm and don't get mad. But I see lots of people getting angry when they're trying to back in their RVs to places.
And it's tough too because that's campground entertainment right there is watching somebody back in. So now you're frustrated because you're not getting backed in. Then you're frustrated because people are watching you. And then I never offer help. Like I never go up to somebody and say, hey, I feel like if somebody really wants help, they'll step out of their vehicle and ask for help. Because I know if I'm having an issue, I don't usually want somebody else helping me. Like I'll just figure it out on my own if I can, depending on what it is. Backing in something, I'll just, I'll give me a couple tries and I'll get backed in. Now, if I'm broken down on the side of the road, sure, I'll take some help then, but not to back a vehicle in. I don't know how you feel about people coming up to you and asking if you want.
The one time I really appreciated help backing in was we were in this campground in Winchester, Virginia, and we were going to be staying there for a couple of months. So they parked us in where the long-term people park, and it was really tough. And the owner actually followed us down, and he basically told me every move to make with the steering wheel to get into this spot, which was really helpful. I would have been there for hours otherwise, but but otherwise I just want to try and figure it out myself.
Yeah, that's how I think for one, that's how you kind of learn. But I feel like that's a different situation. I think a campground owner, campground staff that knows the property really well, helping you back into a spot, especially if it's a difficult one, that's totally different than some random person that you have no idea what their skill, what their skill ability is. They might have less ability than I have. So I don't know. Not that I don't trust people, but I don't trust somebody I've never seen them back into something. How do I know that they're going to give me good advice?
Yeah, exactly.
And they might, say that you're backing in and you already have somebody spotting you. The worst thing anybody could do is now come over and help. Like, you don't need two spotters. Now you get mixed information. So keep that in mind too, people. When you're watching, just watch. Don't, if
Yeah.
somebody wants help, they'll come over and ask you, hey, can you just spot me around this? It's hard for me to see this corner of the vehicle or something like that. Or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think those are the two times, like the driving and the parking are the two, like that's the beginning of your trip.
Mhm.
So if you lose your cool then, it kind of ruins your trip.
Yeah, and sometimes too, it's just taking a moment to step away from the situation, taking a breath, just seeing what needs to be the next step instead of trying to rushing. I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes if something's going wrong, I just want to try to patch it back up real quick and get back on the road and I'm not really thinking about consequences of like my actions sometimes of some of the repairs or something like that. I'm thinking about like Jeep stuff too sometimes. So I think just not just not getting frustrated and panicky, but also taking your time and really looking at a situation and make sure that you are handling the situation the best you can for not just you, but people around you as well.
Yeah.
We have planning, of course, and planning doesn't always go as planned. I'm sure there's a different way to say that because I've said it twice that way and it probably makes no sense. But you want to plan, but you don't want to over plan. And like I had mentioned to Sean, and Sean has listened to me a bunch of times while I'm on the road. You plan out where you want to stop. I kind of stopped doing that for the most part now. I don't know where I'm going to stop at the very beginning of my day. I don't start looking for a place to stop now until about 3 hours. Like I'll say to myself, all right, I would like to stop within the next 3 hours. Now let me start planning out where I'm going to stop. And I'm talking about a cross country trip where I know I'm driving for 3, 4 days all in a row. I'm not planning out every day, all 3 days in advance. I'm planning each day at a time, unless there's things that I want to kind of pick out and see. I try not to over plan the trips. And that's going to be different for everybody. Cause I know like Sabrina, I would say Sabrina likes to plan more than I plan. I don't figure out where I'm stopping for gas. I don't plan where I'm stopping for overnight. I kind of wing a lot of my day to day traveling.
We probably overplan a little bit, but I do like to know, uh, no matter the length of the trip, I'll look at the entire thing and see, like, particularly what makes me mad is the low overpasses. So I like to look to make sure that
Yeah.
I'm not going to get any of those because even the GPS has steered me wrong a few times. So I like to look at that ahead of time as much as I can to see if there's any and where I need to turn and stuff to avoid them. But otherwise, I don't do it like I don't plan fuel stops or anything like that. But definitely where we're stopping for the night is always planned way in advance.
Oh, okay. Okay. I think the thing that I probably plan on the most, and even that I try to keep going back to rule number one of the flexibility, is I do try to set a daily mileage. I do like to say to myself, okay, I would like to travel this many miles each day so that I can end my trip on X day. And then what I'll do, like throughout that trip, I'll be like, all right, well, if I hit construction the first couple days, I'm not hitting my say 350-mile range, I'm only doing maybe 200 miles, then I know, well, now these extra days I got to make up those miles. But I do try to at least hit one target mileage per day to get to my location. But you know what? It's more than just like rest areas closing. You could get to a casino that you've been to before, and that's where you camped last time, and that's now closed. Campgrounds, I feel like, are pretty consistent. We had a campground though in New Mexico. Like even this happens that we went to, and it was called like Wolf Park in New Mexico, and we loved stopping there. And we were planning on staying there one time, and the campground had closed. We didn't know the campground had closed, so that
Wow.
that kind of threw a wrench in our works too. This is at a time, and I think this is still true. Like a lot of campgrounds don't answer their phones and emails. Like you kind of just show up and say, "Hey, do you got a space for us tonight?" type of thing, and that's how this place was. And it's a shame too because it was a Passport America site. So it was only $20 for the night with full hookups. And unfortunately, it was a small family owned campground, and they're no longer even in business anymore, which is a shame because it was a great spot for us when we're traveling through New Mexico.
I really like the quote that you put in our notes, Kenny, that your plan should support the trip, not become the trip. I think that's a good way to put it. Like enjoy the journey, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's funny because this isn't so much about RVing, but for me, and like when Sabrina and I do a Disney trip, I go all in on planning for a Disney trip. And I do feel like the planning sometimes is just as fun as the trip itself. And that's funny to me that I feel that way about something like that, but I don't feel that same way about an RV trip. Like I really like to keep our RV trips pretty loose and flexible. Like even today, Sean, Sabrina and I are actually in New Mexico right now. And I think last night I told you I was just going to stay put for the day and I could record at any time. You had texted me this morning saying that you were doing like snow removal. You guys got a lot of snow, and I said to you, I was like, well, you know what? We actually picked up and moved, and we're doing some grocery shopping, and then we're going to find a new place to camp. I kind of like not really. I like winging it, I guess.
Yeah, we're more planners, but I don't think, well, I think we kind of do over plan
Oh, you do? I don't.
when we have the RV. Yeah, yeah, we don't detour much from the plan unless we have to.
Is that a military thing, or do you think you would have been like that before military too? Because you're both military.
I think it's a Julie thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I would say that Sabrina likes to plan more than I do also, but not by much, not by much. She too, I would say, is kind of flexible in her RV travels, but nothing else. And we're going to talk about budgeting and stuff like that. Like she does not like to wing it with budgeting. She doesn't like to wing it when it comes to work schedules, flights, and things like that. But when it comes to RVing, she does. I think now, after 9 years of traveling in the RV, she is like kind of taking it a little bit easier too with the planning in the RV because we used to plan. I mean, just everything, everything.
Yeah, speaking of budget, that can be a tough one. Especially if you're one, a new RVer, two, if you get a new RV, like if you change like from a towable to a class A or something like that, that everything kind of changes when you're doing this. And you definitely can't compare it to what you spend at home. I think that's totally different.
Totally different. Yeah. And you have costs that think can, you can have costs at home too that happen, maybe repairs and stuff like that at your home. But I feel like there's more surprise costs on the road than there is at home. And I think budgeting for most people in general, not just RVers, but, I don't think we're in the United States. We're broadcasting out of the United States. I know we are listened to everywhere. This might be a spoiler for other countries, but I don't think the United States really has a great reputation for Americans anyway, for us to be great at budgeting. Like I think I think we're great at carrying debt and credit card use. I don't think we're known as like financial geniuses. And RVing doesn't take a genius, but definitely takes some budgeting planning because there are things that maybe you don't expect. When you're traveling in an RV, fuel is very expensive, but sometimes it's lower and sometimes it's higher. It's something that's very difficult to plan for is how much to budget for fuel when, well, maybe you don't know how often you're on travel that month and you're not going to know what fuel costs are 3-4 weeks in advance. I do believe that it gets tricky budgeting from the road. I really do. Campgrounds across the country are all be different rates. Are you paying daily? Are you paying monthly? That's going to greatly give you a variable. Repairs, I mean, could be from minimal to astronomical.
Thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess the point would be, see, it depends on how you travel. Would it ever kind of like average out? I almost feel like we needed 1 year to really see what we were spending on the road. Like we didn't know before you were actually, and this was the hard part about budgeting. We didn't know until we were actually on the road doing it, how much we were really going to spend for campgrounds? How often could we use a passport in America? How often were we dry camping? How often were we paying for full hookups? That was really a learning curve in the first year, is like, just how much money are we going to spend?
Yeah, and even as like we were full-time for a while and now we're part-time RVers, even then there's like repair costs and I just put a new water pump
Hmm.
in our RV because when I went to winterize, the water pump was dead. So it's always something.
Yeah. And then, to that point, that like Sean did that water pump himself. The more you can do your own on your own, the cheaper things are going to be too. The more often you got to bring it to a dealer, then you got to budget even more money because now you're paying somebody. So the more you can do on your own, that you could maybe save a little bit money there, and that money can then go into your fuel costs.
Yeah, and I think if you're traveling on the East Coast or in the Midwest and you're now planning a trip out to like California, Washington, or Oregon, you have to know that like the fuel prices are going to be double
Yeah.
than what they are on the East Coast. So, looking ahead, saying, oh, next month
Mm.
we're planning on going here, checking what those fuel prices are and the campground costs are. And if you're going out to eat at if you like the things you want to do out there, just kind of see what it costs and then make your budget from that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to kind of stick to that budget. Like when you're traveling, you are going to be enticed to try whatever the cuisine might be in the area. You might be enticed to do those sightseeing things that cost extra money because you don't want to miss out. And if you're on Instagram and you see everybody else doing it, well, you don't want to be left out. You want to go see it too. You want to be able to go do that too. You're like, all right, well, I'm only 200 miles away from Cadillac Ranch. We could just hop on up, drive the 200 miles. But now you're driving to it. That's 400 extra miles that you just spent. Now, on fuel, true, to Cadillac Ranch was free, but you just spent a lot of money in gas to get up there, back, and probably an extra overnight camp stay. So I think having that budget and sticking to it helps keep you grounded in like what you're able to do. I think when Sabrina and I first really started budgeting and getting serious about it, we looked at it kind of the wrong way. We kept on looking at budgeting and it saying, and our budget kept on telling us, no, you can't do this and no, you can't do that. And you got to kind of look at it and be like, okay, it may be saying no to these things, but it's saying yes to a lot of things. Yes, we can
Yeah.
do this and we can do that. We just can't do everything. And it's a mindset that you have to get around with it. Your budget's not telling you no. It's allowing you to do one, the RV and experience itself, but it is allowing you to do other things. It's just not maybe allowing you to do everything.
Yeah, and once you have an RV budget, like you said, Kenny, it takes a while to figure that out, but once you have it, it's pretty easy to stick to it,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, then it
in
is.
our experience anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's just the initial figuring out, and it's going to be different for everybody. Everybody's budget is going
Yep.
to be so different, and you're going to prioritize what's important to you isn't important to other people. I mean, some people hate campgrounds and never ever go into a campground. Like just avoid them like a plague. Other people love the campgrounds and the full hookup and the amenities and the pool and stuff like that. So they're two totally different budgets right there. One, at the campground, you may be paying a nightly rate, but you're plugged in and you're using electricity. The dry camper may not be paying for that campground, but now they're burning through their propane because they can't plug in and use electrical items. So now they're using everything on propane. One person may like all the tourist attractions, and somebody may hate all the tourist attractions and try to avoid people. So everybody's budget is going to be very far off. And I think the first steps of coming up with your budget is, all right, I'm now going to become an RVer. I'm buying my RV. Forget about that budget because that's a whole other budget on its side. I mean, you got a budget for your RV first. But say you're past that point and now you have your RV. Before you even actually get to that point, you want to budget and think about what is important to me. What is it that I want to see while RVing? How am I going to travel? And going back to rule number one, the way you think you might want to travel may not actually work out for you. And you might decide, you know what? I thought I would like dry camping and boondocking, but you know what? I do prefer the campgrounds or vice versa. So it all comes back to being flexible again.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Part of that flexibility that we talked about is having like an emergency fund
Mhm.
set aside because if something that you didn't predict happens, you want to make sure you can cover whatever the expense is to correct that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And for anybody thinking about RVing, this is our fifth topic here. Like, who is RVing actually for? And I think the great thing about RVing is that it truly could be for everybody because it fits so many different lifestyles. If you're an outdoor enthusiast, RVing is great. If you like biking, hiking, nature, wildlife, then RVing is great for you. If you like the idea of not being in a hotel and having all of your own stuff, RVing is great for you. You like to make and cook your own meals, RVing is great for you. If you like going out and trying new restaurants, again, RVing is great for you because it gets you to travel and see things. I think RVing really could be a good fit for anybody as long as they're flexible, able to keep cool. Now, if you're somebody that can't follow those first four topics that we covered, then RV life isn't for you. But if you listen to us and listen to those four topics and say, yeah, I can stay cool under pressure. I can stay flexible. I know how to make a budget. Then I think RV life is for anybody, really. I think there's so many we've met, I'm sure you have too, Sean. Like we meet people from all walks of life RVing, from luxury coaches that are like high end, that these are like classy people, I would say, to people camping out of a custom homemade van that are on a shoestring budget. Like, I mean, there is just such a wide range of personalities and classes and demographic. It's just amazing just how many different types of people are RVing.
Yeah, and I think you just adjust RV life to suit you, right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't change your life to suit the RV. You change the RV life to suit you.
Yeah. Different class vehicles are out there, different size vehicles are out there. Do you want to move often or you don't be camped and parked often? Varies, what the size of the rig that you would want. I always say, like, if you're planning on moving a lot, pick a small RV because you don't want that mobility and maneuverability. If you're planning on parking a lot and being in a campground or even dry camping areas for days and weeks at a time, then you probably want something a little bigger because you're going to be sitting in the house portion of it more often. Yeah, I think it's a great way for everybody to travel and at least try. I'm glad Sabrina and I gave it the chance.
Yeah, we talked about it for years before we actually tried it, and then once we tried it, we enjoy it for sure. I bet you and Sabrina travel differently than me and Julie, so that goes to show that it's not one size fits all.
Definitely not. Yeah, yeah. It's very. I'm going to use flexible again. The RV lifestyle offers you a chance to be very flexible too. Like it just gets you past sometimes your comfort zones in some certain ways. I think it's really fits so many different personalities. Yeah. So I think kind of just wrapping this up, we think that flexibility is really, really important to the point that I think being flexible is probably more important than the rig that you're in, than more important than what you carry with you. I think flexibility matters more than almost anything else. Being calm and keeping your cool is going to go a long, long way. And planning is important. And I like that quote too, Sean, where, gee, Sean, I can't remember my own quote now. Let me see what
Your plan should support the trip, not become the trip.
that's right. And budget. And budget honestly, not optimistically. Because you can always this was something that Sabrina and I learned too about budgeting. Like when you budget, try to be as tight as you can, I think, and then loosen your budget up over time. That will make you feel better than being kind of loosey goosey with your budget and then having to rein things back in. I think mentally anyway, that hurts you a little bit that you're like, oh, now I'm cutting this out and I'm cutting that out. But if you start out with a really tight budget and loosen the belt a little bit and say, oh, you know what? I can afford a little bit more here. I can afford a little bit more here. That will mentally feel better to you than cutting more away.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. You feel the pain once.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. If you're thinking about becoming an RVer or know somebody that's thinking about being an RVer and you just listen to this episode, definitely share this episode with them. Let them know that it is, I believe, I really think RVing is for everybody. I think anybody can do it. That's all I'm asking you to do for this episode. That's my call to action, is to share this episode with anybody that you know that is thinking about becoming an RVer. And these are our 5 tips of things that you should be kind of prepared for.
Yeah, and I think like the first tip was the most important. Just be flexible, be adaptable, and it'll all work out eventually. There's nothing that's not overcomable in RVing, that's for sure. So that's our episode. We want to thank everybody for listening. And like Kenny said, share the episode or leave us a comment of what you think your most important tips are for people that want to become an RVer, and share those with us, and we'll make sure to let everyone else know what they are. And so we'll be back in a couple weeks with another episode. And until then, safe travels, everybody.